Hello Indie Game fans, we have had a very busy weekend of announcements and showcases, with an even busier week coming up with the Steam Next Festival, so you are either very brave or very foolish to be releasing your game this week, so here are the developers that are going to try in this edition of Indie Gaming this week. Let's begin with Super Ember Kaboom, a pixel art action platformer that looks wonderful, being the sequel to Ember Kaboom from 2016, with an art style that looks so much better. It has you running through the level, jumping on enemies, collecting fruit, platforming and fighting bosses, with a number of elemental forms that you can use as well, looking like an awesome title. Speaking of action platformers, Downpurr is also a pixel art entry but where you play as a cat wizard, having to explore a world of rain, hunting down various moon cats and finding out what they want. It does look more like a run and gun title with the variety of magical spells at your disposal, with a pleasant look as well. This video is brought to you by OVERLORD Escape from NAZARICK, a game and company that I'm very happy to work with since I love my Metroidvanias and this looks pretty good. It is of course based on the anime of the same name, where, no spoilers, this is a very interesting choice for a main character. You're exploring and attempting to escape the Great Tomb of NAZARICK, battling bosses along the way. The movement and traversal options in this game looks neat, including a grappling hook and wall jumping, with a variety of weapons and spells as well. Licensed games do have a bad reputation, but from what I have seen of this game so far, it should turn out pretty well, so if you love this genre like me, be sure to check it out via the link in the description below. An interesting looking action platformer is Byte The Bullet, not only because of the retro look, but because it parodies and pays tribute to some of the great games from the 80s and 90s, including Rockman, Prince of Persia, Doom and more. So if you grew up with those games, I think this might be of interest, and even if you don't, the variety in gameplay shown off here looks pretty neat. Comedy is difficult to pull off in games, which is why The Looker got my attention, a pretty blatant parody of The Witness, with this being a free first-person puzzle game with over 55 puzzles and 2 whole hours of gameplay, and it's exactly what I love to see in indie games. I'll admit, I did write off the Dadish series, where you play as a Reddish who is also a dad, since the developer released the first 2 games in quick succession on Steam and they seem to be primarily mobile first, but it appears that people seem to like these games, with the latest, Dadish 3 being what we're looking at. It's the same story of having to rescue his children once again, with a wonderful pixel art look as well.
In every age, there is a cause worth fighting for. But in the future, the greatest threat to our survival will not be men at all. Now the youth of tomorrow must face an enemy more devastating than any ever imagined.
We have a couple of bigger games of interest, beginning with Starship Troopers Terran Command, the latest game using this IP, being a squad-based real-time strategy game resembling Company of Heroes, where fighting giant bugs on alien planets is always fun, so I hope this is good.
Slytherin takes you to the front lines of the next frontier.
Cowabunga, dudes! We also have the release of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, a pixel art beat-em-up that stars everybody's favourite pizza-eating amphibians, coming to us from developer Tribute Games, who made Panzer Paladin and Flint Hook among others, so the pedigree is there, and I'm hoping this leads to a renaissance of this genre.
Unwise to underestimate an old rat. Teamwork is the way.
We have, for some reason, a Zorro game this week, with Zorro The Chronicles, a third-person action title where you play as the iconic hero or his sister, somehow being based on the animated series of the same name that ran from 2015 to 2016. So check it out, I guess? Smaller games begin with Defend the Bits TD, an awesome looking tower defense game that stars very blocky enemies and towers and looks like a fun one of these. If you love strategic Euro-style board games like me, Dice Tribe's Ambitions might be of interest, a worker placement game where you roll dice, giving you options to mitigate randomness, which is always something that I enjoy mechanically. We have a couple of throwback titles this week, such as Nightmare Frames, a pixel art point-and-click adventure game with a horror theme.
Get into the Hollywood of 1985 with Alan Goldberg. He's responsible for the biggest box office hits of horror cinema. But he's lost in the studio system, incapable of showing his true potential. Now his fate is set to change in the search for a lost movie. The scariest movie ever.
We also have the release of Redout 2, the sequel to a racing game from 2016 that is paying tribute to F-Zero, Wipeout, Roll Cage and Pod, with it looking very sleek indeed.
Redout 2 takes place in the year 2589 AD. You play as a pilot in the Solar Redout Racing League, which hosts one of the most popular sports in the galaxy, where humanity's best pilots drive high-speed anti-gravity ships on magnetic racetracks. Redout 2 takes the lead as the future of racing by giving you control over more than just acceleration, braking and turning. You'll have the power to seamlessly strafe, tilt and boost your hovership to maximize your efficiency on the track. There's also an advanced calibration system that will automatically tailor the game's difficulty to fit your capabilities. The first Redout featured 5 galactic racing locations. That has been boosted up to 10 locations in Redout 2, with 36 racetracks across them. And this time, all of them can be played in reverse for a grand total of 72 unique tracks. Not only are there tons of tracks, but there are also 6 unique game modes that you can experience throughout an extensive career in the Solar Redout Racing League. Or if you prefer, you can take your racing skills online in races of up to 12 players on most platforms. We've gone all out with vehicle customization in Redout 2. You can pick from 12 distinct chassis, each with their own base attributes. Once you've picked your chassis, you can customize each piece of it further with a massive selection of propulsors, stabilizers, wings, spoilers, rocket engines, paints, and more. And last but not least, not only is there a killer soundtrack featuring legendary electronic artists like Giorgio Moroder, Zardonic, and Dance with the Dead, but there's even music mixing algorithms that blend their tracks together in real time based on how you've customized your ship and what's actually happening in your race. So, are you ready to go from 0 to light speed?
Let's kick off the top 5 with American Theft 80s, a third-person simulation title where you play as a thief getting up to all sorts of crimes, and while personally not really my style of game, I have to give credit where it's due. developer Noble Muffins made the very popular Thief Simulator from 2018, where this looks to be a spiritual successor of sorts, so I hope it does well for them. The other classically designed point-and-click adventure game this week is Born Punk, a cyberpunk thriller with an occult theme where otherworldly entities have already possessed our heroes with great pixel art and voice acting, so enjoy.
Hey there, weirdlings. Let's talk business. We need to talk to your leader, but I'm not allowed to fry your brains to go through here, so we'll be doing your trials.
The trials.
The trials.
There! The cops! Wait, that's that cat! What's your problem, Holmes? Why you snitching on me? Probably doesn't like me trying to snatch its pigeon.
Enough power to arrange unfortunate accidents for all three of you.
I'll fight for our rights, and then you'll come begging me, oh, let me join the glorious union, please, sir. And I will say, screw you, class traitor, dirty bourgeois.
No need to be concerned, Mariposa. They're harmless.
I know, it's just quite the sight.
That it is indeed.
My task is of supreme importance, for me and my survival. For your survival. For the survival of your species.
This is impossible.
Man, why you doing like that? We a gang.
What if you were the last Sandro in the world?
Ah, compadres, always up for a joke. I know you like me. I know they like me.
A fantastic looking action platformer is Skeleton Crew, one that self-describes as a multiplayer platform brawler, which is interesting, where you and a party of heroes battle your way through the level. There appears to be variety in character classes and good-looking action and enemies, where I am concerned about the multiplayer focus and wonder if it is viable in single player.
Why do they need assassins in heaven? To do someone's dirty work.
One of the highlights from Summer Games Fest was that Neon White's release date was confirmed, and rather than available now, they announced the release for 1 week later, which is clever in my opinion. This is a level-based first-person shooter that adds a deck-building element where you're switching between weapons and abilities, looking very hectic and intense.
It's kill or be killed. You won't last long if you can't rely on yourself.
You play as an assassin in heaven, doing God's dirty work, with some gorgeous art and animations, with a developer pedigree that is excellent as well.
God's judgment has nothing to do with it.
Duke Sancho jumps into action. Let's go!
I want to give a very special mention to Final Vendetta, a pixel art beat 'em up that looks very retro, where in conjunction with Shredder's Revenge, is a great week for beat 'em up fans. It feels like Streets of Rage and probably has a similar setup, but the action simply looks fantastic, and since the developer did make Xeno Crisis, which I adore, here's hoping it turns out well, taking the #1 spot. For more beat 'em up games, watch these videos and I will see you after the jump.
Final Vendetta!